Hello, and welcome to our third session of JPPlus Fest. We are really excited to be here today to teach you all kinds of tips and tricks with your heat press during this Mastering the Perfect Press live event. I am Caitlin with the marketing department, and I'm here with Joyce with our advanced support team. We have a couple demos here to show you, but before we jump in, just a couple housekeeping. We have two lovely ladies behind the scenes here to jump in and answer questions. So feel free to use our chat. Jackie and Kylie are ready to answer any questions that you may have, and then we'll also try to answer some of those questions live during the event. And we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, sounds great. So we actually are going to do two demos for you today. So the first one is going to be this Sublimating bag. We're actually going to press both sides of it, and then we're also going to press a glass block. So we picked these products because they have some unique characteristics that make them hard sometimes to press. So for example, with the Sublimating bag here, there is a zipper on the inside. There are also, of course, the handles, as well as the bottom here has a seam on it. So you want to make sure that your artwork is not going to interfere with any of those. But there's also some techniques to get a really good press on it.
And there's a pocket inside. I just saw that.
There is a pocket inside.
Yes. She was opening it up, and there's
another pocket on the inside.
So lots of obstacles on this bag.
Yes. So in order to get a good press on it, I'm going to actually use a pressing pillow. So these come in a whole variety of sizes. This is, of course, the large size, and then we have all the way to the little tiny one. And you can also use these, for example, if you're pressing on a shirt and you want to do something on the sleeve, those make great options for that. So to start with, though, I need to calibrate our press and get it ready to go. Before I jump in too far, I'm going to have Caitlin talk to you about our tech tips while I start getting this ready.
So when you start sublimating, you're probably wondering, how do I know what time and temperature my press should be at? So our advanced support team here has done a really fantastic job putting together a starting point for all of the blanks that we offer on the web. So they are called our tech tips, and these can be found, for example, when shopping for this linen bag that Joyce is going to show us how to sublimate. You can go to that product page, and under the details tab, there's a downloads one as well, and you can find the tech tips there, and they're usually in PDF form. You can download those, and in here it has our starting point. So this bag will need to be pressed for 45 to 50 seconds, and the temperature is 390 to 400 degrees, and then our pressure is going to be like pressure. So Joyce isn't memorizing every single product that we are pressing. She references our tech tips as well. So feel free to, if you're unsure where to start when you're starting to sublimate, use our resources that we have. They've done a really good job putting those all together for us.
Thank you. And so this is a Geonite DK20 swing away press. That means the top swings here. So I'm going to just set it up here. First, I'm going to check my time and temp. So I've already been preheating this press. It is at 390. And I have it set for 50 seconds. And so I'm going to swing this away because what I need to focus on is getting my pressure right. So I want to make sure I get the right pressure so I get a really good sublimation on this bag. So I'm going to go ahead and put my blank in here. And what I want to do is get it set up so that like my handles are laying flat, my pillow is here, and it's tucked in kind of where there's no big bubbles down here on the bottom. And then before I get too much further, I want to go ahead, because I'm going to kind of be almost like pre-pressing this. I'm going to make sure that I lint roll it so that I don't have any stray strands or little lint balls getting pushed into my fabric. And then, as always, I want to make sure that I'm protecting any of my blanks from stray ink or maybe something that might be on your upper platen. So I'm going to use a piece of blowout paper, just cover this up, and that way then...
That one's dirty.
I was going to say, this is
one.
actually dirty, so we're going to actually get a different one.
Yeah, let's get a clean one.
Because we want to make sure that we're not transferring anything that could be potentially getting on this bag.
Yeah. And I think this is a good example of why it's important to make sure that you're using a new blowout sheet.
Yes.
Just prior to this, we were running through, how we wanted to have our live session go. We used this once. We must have gotten something on it from the heat press. So this is exactly why you want to use a blowout paper or a Teflon sheet to protect the top and the bottom of your platen.
All right, so to test it, I'm just gonna go ahead and close this, and I wanna see where my pressure is at. Now this heat press actually has a readout on here that gives me a number between 0 and 9 that tells me how much pressure I have. Not every heat press has that. So you do wanna just kind of have a feel for how hard is it to close your press. Now this is actually maybe just a little bit light, so I'm gonna go ahead and lower my press just a little bit. I want just a little bit more pressure there, and I wanna see this pillow kind of contract and kind of squish down a little bit, and that's helping bring that bag up to the platen. So you'll also notice, and I don't know if the camera's picking up, but there's a little bit of steam coming off of this. That is just moisture that is in the bag here. And so we want to go ahead and just let some of that moisture evaporate out. And now that we have our pre-press done and we have our pressure set, I'm going to get my transfer ready, but I'm going to let this cool down for a second. So I'm going to come back in the middle and show you how I like to get a transfer ready, because I don't want to put a hot transfer on a bag that's actually kind of warm, because it could actually start sublimating before you're ready. So we're going to go ahead and jump over here. So we have our transfers printed. We went ahead and printed these on an Epson F570. So that is our roll printer. It came off of a 24-inch roll. I've already kind of trimmed it down a little bit. And if you can notice this top edge, I've already kind of softened this. And I just like to have a soft edge, especially when I'm working with like the fabrics, t-shirts, soft goods. Because that hard edge, sometimes you'll get like a pressing.
You'll literally have a square like of your artwork on there. Yeah.
So we want to kind of soften that edge to make it easier. So to do that, I just put my finger here on the corner and I kind of just guide my finger and I tear just the edge off. And I'm creating a much softer line. And I'm going to just kind of go from the other way. And again, use my finger to kind of block so I don't tear into my design. And you can see now my top edge and my bottom edge have softened up a lot. I don't worry as much about these sides, but if you are putting this on a t-shirt or thin material, you might want to go ahead and tear the sides as well. I do like to leave enough space around my design that I have a place to tape. I want to make sure I'm putting my tape here on the white paper and not covering any of the ink. Now, I personally like to use the brown thermal tape. It's our thinnest tape, and it works really, really well when you're doing materials like t-shirts or soft goods.
So it's important that you use tape that's intended for sublimation.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's because if it's not, as you saw, if you could see on the camera, when the steam was coming out of the press, it is very, very hot. And regular tape that's not meant for sublimation will melt, ruin your blank, ruin your artwork.
Yes,
the whole thing's trash.
It makes a giant mess.
Yes.
So I'm going to just take my transfer here. I'm going to hold it up to the light a little bit and use my thumbs to kind of grab the edge of the design so that I can look here on my blank and decide where I want to put it at. I should move that out of the way. So I've got my design kind of centered, and I'm going to hold it in place with one hand and grab some tape. And I'm going to go ahead and tape my transfer here. There we go.
And if you notice, since we're sublimating on the front side of the bag, we did mirror our artwork so that when it's sublimated, because we're putting that print face down, it's going to read the correct way.
All right.
And she's not using very much tape.
I'm not. And
she's got about 6 pieces on there, which you don't need to tape down every single edge. It's just so that it holds your design down so it's not shifting.
And one thing I'm checking while I'm here is I want to make sure the pillow is centered underneath my artwork. So that way then if anything shifts, it's still going to apply the same amount of pressure. So we've got it all set up there. I'm going to go ahead and put my piece of blowout paper here. So again, we're protecting that upper platen from any ink transference. And I'm just going to go ahead and I like to take a moment here. I like to push down nice and slow, not slam it down because you don't want to potentially, again, move something. So it's going to take 40 seconds or so here.
While that's pressing, I'm going to go ahead. We're going to sublimate both sides of the bags because with this bag you can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting out the second design for the back side of the bag.
So one thing you do want to have on hand while you're sublimating is you do want to have some sort of heat glove. These are nice and thick. They're also, you can use them on either hand, left or right. And this will just help protect you as you're getting more comfortable. I don't always use a heat glove with the soft materials, but I will always use one with metal or ceramic or anything like that because it holds the heat a really long time. So I'm going to lift this up, and again, I'm not going to slam it up. I'm going to let it steam for a moment here. And I'm going to go ahead and just carefully remove my blowout paper. And now I'm going to go ahead and peel my transfer. So you can see my transfer has been used, and this is what it looks like. I don't know. Oop, I'm going to move the handles so everybody can see that. So you can see I got really nice color, really crisp lines. Now I want to go ahead and do the other side. So to do that, I'm going to kind of basically do the same process again. I'm going to get this set up. The only thing I don't have to do is I don't have to go ahead and adjust the temperature or the pressure, but I am going to go ahead and just real quick lint roll.
Hey, Joyce.
Absolutely.
From the peanut gallery here. We had some sound issues at the beginning. Can you go back over the pressing pillow and how to deal with the zipper?
Absolutely.
I think that might have got missed in when we were troubleshooting our live event today.
Absolutely. So the pressing pillow comes in a variety of sizes. It is basically a really spongy foam pad that has a non-stick sheet on the top. So you can clean this if you need to. And when you have a product like a bag with a zipper, that has a zipper in it, this will help you kind of fill that gap in so that you're not trying, and especially with bags with seams or handles. So if I press this without that pillow in there, I've got all these seams to contend with. I have all this extra fabric here. I have extra fabric on the bottom, so it makes it really uneven. So I'm going to get really good pressure maybe here, but I'm going to get terrible pressure up here. So by giving it a flat surface on the inside of the bag and putting this in here, I'm kind of making my surface on the inside raised up a little bit and everything's even, and I don't have all those bubbles of material to deal with anymore. So that's what we use a pressing pillow for. You can do the same thing with a sleeve on a shirt or a shirt in general or a pillow, or we have bags of this style in many different sizes.
And I think it's a good time to call out. So all of our products here at JPPlus are tested by our team here. And this is a sublimation safe bag. It does have the polyester coating. However, you can buy polyblend items at any local store and sublimate on them. But by buying products from JPPlus, if you can see here, she's got this full bag on this press. We know that that zipper isn't going to melt because it is a sublimation ready item. So if you buy a bag from Walmart and it's a polyblend or any other big box store, the zipper may be plastic and you could do the same thing she's doing here and melt the zipper completely shut and unusable. So it is important to make sure that your blanks that you're sublimating are sublimation safe. And if you are buying them from other places, be sure to test them prior to putting artwork on them or prior to putting them in your heat press and ruining your heat press and those type of things.
Yeah, definitely pay attention to what the zipper is made of. So if the zipper is made of plastic, it's very likely, especially like if the teeth are made of plastic, it's very possible it's going to melt. Also pay attention if it has a lining that's like almost like a lunchbox or like something nylon. Yeah. It's possible that will not be heat safe and that could melt and fuse the whole bag together. So definitely pay attention to what you're getting blank wise and make sure it is safe. Okay, so I went ahead, did the same process that I did on the first side here on the second side. We did give it a little bit of time in between for it to cool down. And so that is one thing, if you're going to do a bunch of these in a row, you might find that you end up maybe doing one side, setting it aside to cool, coming back and doing the other side. But you can also do them one right after another. Just give it about 30 to 45 seconds to cool down. So we're going to go ahead and press that second side. All right.
Jackie, while we're waiting 30 to 40 seconds, is there a question we can answer?
Yes, there is a question about fumes during the print and press process with sublimation. Or any safety precautions they should take with sublimation?
Well, you should always have a well-ventilated workspace no matter what you're doing. We are in quite a large room with good ventilation. So you want to make sure that whether it's the fumes or just also the amount of moisture and humidity that comes off this, that you have a well-ventilated space. I wouldn't recommend maybe putting your face next to it for sure. Also, if you are worried about the fumes, open the press and step back. Let the air ventilate. It's always going to rise. So I'm going to go ahead, lift this up. And again, I'm going to step back, let that air come up. I'm going to pull this off. And then I'm just going to peel this. I like to start at a corner and peel away. That way then I'm not dragging my artwork over my freshly pressed, just in case that it's potentially going to still transfer. And now you can see this side of the bag as well. And then this side of the bag. And just to show the inside again, I can easily still, I'm not going to touch the zipper because it's going to be hot.
It's going to be very hot.
But the bag is not fused together in any way. So here we go. All right, so this one is done. So now we have a second one we're going to work on, which is our glass block. So we're going to change gears a little bit here, and we're going to talk about when you're sublimating a small or a brittle object, something potentially like glass, ceramic, porcelain, that you might want to utilize some different items to help when you're pressing with that.
And you're probably wondering, where do I get those from? We've got options.
We have plenty of options here. So we're going to show these off here real quick. So again, as Caitlin was mentioning earlier with the tech tips, is this information will be in here. So we will always offer some sort of different options, whether it is a Nomex pad. So this is felt. It's about 1/4 inch thick. It's really great with items like ceramic or slate. And then we also offer different types of foams. So the green foam is quite a bit thicker and a lot more spongy than the gray foam here, which is a lot thinner and it will compress a little bit more. So this is the vapor foam, and then this is the green sponge foam. So in those tech tip instructions, it's going to tell you kind of what's the best tool to use for the job. So in this instance, the glass block that we're going to press today doesn't actually even need one of these, but something thinner, maybe something that is like a Christmas ornament or something like one of our ceramic tiles. Yep. You're definitely going to want to utilize a product like this to help you.
And it's important to note that you can't just use any foam.
Yes.
You can't go to your local hardware store and buy a piece of foam or your craft store. They have to be rated and heat safe to be put into the press because that's 350 degrees coming down on a piece of foam, and it definitely will melt it if it's not intended to be used for this purpose.
Yeah, and potentially ruin your press. So you definitely want to make sure you're getting your foam that is heat safe and it is intended for use with sublimation and a heat press.
And you get multiple uses out of these.
Yes.
It's not a one-time use. You can see this one pad here. It's got some press marks on it from stuff we've done before. So we've been using this for some time. So they're definitely worth the investment. To have them to protect your blanks, to protect your heat press, and just overall, not having to spend extra money when we ruin blanks or presses.
Well, and you can trim these to size. So for example, if you want to do something that's maybe an odd shape, like a pickleball paddle or a pickleball, the bag for the pickleball, we offer that as well. You could actually trim this to the exact shape to fit inside of that blank. Yep. And that will help you press that. And then you can just keep reusing it. So one piece will get you a long ways. The other thing I want to talk about is we've been using blowout paper with the bag here, is I want to talk about using a nonstick or a Teflon sheet. This is, again, something that I really like to use when I am working with something like glass or ceramic, something like acrylic. I prefer to use the nonstick versus a blowout paper. Partially because with blowout paper, the extra pressure will actually tear through the corners of this, and it will kind of tear through your paper. This will kind of stretch a little bit and go around your blank a little bit better. And
you can reuse them. Over and over and
over and over. This
And
one's
they
been around a
wipe
while.
off, so if you get something on them, it just wipes right off and keep using it.
So we're going to go ahead and set up the press for this. So again, we've got to adjust our time, our temperature, and our pressure.
And we can find those here in our lovely tech tips that we have. So Joyce is adjusting it according to our tech tips, 390 to 400 degrees. Do you know which one you're doing?
I'm doing 400 degrees, and how many seconds? I thought it was 300.
300 seconds. Yep.
Okay, so
She's got a good memory.
We got to go a long ways up.
Yeah.
While we're waiting for that, there is a question in the chat. When you're using those pads, do you have to remove the heat press pad on the bottom of the platen?
So I'm going to repeat that. So the question is, when you're using the pads, which I think they mean the foam pads, do you have to remove the heat press pad on the bottom?
You do not. You can put it right here on top of that and then just put your blank and your transfer. Now, sometimes when you're using them, you do want to pay attention to what order that would actually go in. So for example, if you were pressing slate, you would actually flip it over and you're going to press the transfer onto the slate. So you'll have your pad and then your transfer and then your slate. So different items will take a different pressing order. So that's where you really want to pay attention to those tech tips. So I got my beep that says my temperature is good. I've got this sitting here. I'm going to go ahead and just swing the press over and see where my pressure is at. Well, I can't push it down, so we definitely have to go up.
You never want to force it closed.
No, never want to force it closed. And the more effort it takes, the more pressure it's putting down on that blank, and some blanks will just break. Now that might be a little too light. So we're going to find something in that happy medium there. And every press is going to be a little different. So you really want to pay attention to and get the feel for your own press. All right, let me get it centered here. All right, that's pretty good. And I'm getting the reading I really want to see on the screen. Because again, this press actually tells me what my pressure is at. I'm going to go ahead and release it here. Now, this is again where we just exposed this blank to a bunch of heat. So I don't want to grab it barehanded. So I'm going to have Caitlin hand me a glove. So having a glove on hand, especially if you're working with something that transfers heat really well, such as glass or ceramic or metal, you don't want to burn yourself. I also want to give it a chance to cool down before we put our artwork with it. So again, I had gone ahead and printed our artwork. This came off of our Epson F570, and I oversized this picture. So the image that we're putting on here today, it's just a family photo. Yep. We went ahead and we did not mirror it when we printed, so that way then, because you're looking through the glass, you don't want to mirror your artwork. And I made it a little bit bigger than my block is, so that way then I can focus the block exactly where I want it, and I have enough of a bleed around my artwork that I'm not going to end up with like a white line or kind of a blank space basically in my artwork.
So if you are sublimating something that is not an easy shape to measure, for example, like the pickleball paddle that Joyce mentioned earlier, or like a star Christmas ornament, it can be difficult to decide how big your artwork should be. The nice thing is, on our website, under the same tab that you download our tech tips, we have templates as well. So you can download the template, you can import it into whatever artwork software that you like using, whether it be CorelDRAW or Adobe Illustrator. Import that in, bring your artwork into the template, and apply it to the shape or whatever we have created for you, and then know that that is going to fit on the blank that you have. So there's no guessing. We have all kinds of resources, like all the different tech tips and templates available for you, so that you guys aren't wasting money buying blanks, wasting sublimation, paper, all those types of things.
Yeah, this way you can get it right, hopefully the first time.
Yes, first or second time.
First or second time.
Good.
Yeah. So I've gone ahead and taped this up, and I'm going to put it so that my transfer, so that the side that I'm sublimating is facing upwards. I want it facing where the heat is at.
Do you want to explain why you wrapped it around?
Yeah, so this is keeping it really tight to the edges here. I don't want any potential bubbling. So I don't want any air getting in here. I want it really nice and tight. So I went ahead and wrapped it around so I could pull it really nice and tight. So I'm going to swing this away, and I'm going to go ahead, since I had this kind of doubled over, I'm going to double it over again. All right. And I do want this in the middle of my press. I don't want to have my blank up here in the front or the back, because I tested my pressure here in the middle, and I want to stay consistent with that.
That's the same reason why she folded the Teflon sheet over the same way that she did when she was getting the pressure set earlier, because that would change the amount of pressure that's being applied to the blank.
And I want to try and keep all of my stuff very consistent. So we have to wait for 300 seconds for this to press. So in that time, we're going to talk about troubleshooting your heat press a little bit. So some of the biggest issues that we see with people and their heat press is cold spots or not getting the right temperature. These presses can come out of calibration. So one thing to do is keep your owner's manual or find it online for whatever press you have, because you can most likely calibrate the temperature. So how we're going to talk about that is how to find out if your press is not the right temperature. Is set it at like 400 degrees. Make sure that it is on, it is fully heated up, and let it sit for between 5 and 10 minutes. Then you're going to take a thermometer. This is our temperature probe. Yeah. You can get one, you could use a meat thermometer off of Amazon. You could use an infrared. Now those are a little bit less accurate, so you're going to have a few more degree difference there. And what you're going to do is take the temperature of your press when it's open. In this instance, I would swing mine away to the left or to the right, and I would take the temperature in all 4 corners. And I should have a consistent temperature of the exact same. So let's say it's 400 degrees. Maybe it's 400 in this corner, 400 and 403. So within a few degree difference. Now, if it's cold and say it's 300 degrees here and it's not getting over 360 in the back, then we know your press might actually have a problem. So that's a really good tool to kind of start if you're getting really inconsistent results. So
what do you do if your press has a problem? If you've purchased it from Johnson Plastics Plus, who do they call?
They're going to call us.
You're going to talk to Joyce and
the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You're going to go ahead and set up an appointment with the advanced support team, and we will help you troubleshoot. And depending on if your press is newer, you might have a warranty, you might not. So there's lots of different things, but we'll help you start at least the troubleshooting and try and identify what the problem could be. So that's a temperature problem. And the next problem could be a pressure problem. So there's a really easy test you can do to see if your press is maybe closing unevenly. Maybe the pressure is not even from the front to the back or the left to the right. So you go ahead and you set this at really heavy pressure and you close it. And what you're going to close in the corners, before you close it, you're going to put a piece of paper in each of the 4 corners. And then when you have it closed, you're going to try and pull those papers out. So you'll get to see, let's say you're going left to right. Maybe your left paper comes out really easily and you can't pull your right one out at all. Then you know your press is tilted in one direction. Again, based on the manufacturer of who's making your press, these can sometimes be adjusted and leveled. So you might want to check, especially if you're seeing really good results in like the back of your press and really poor results in the front.
So we should be almost ready to open up the press and have our glass block.
We've got about 5 seconds left.
Okay, we timed that perfectly.
We did time that.
So again, this has been in there for 3 minutes. It's going to be very, very, very hot.
Very hot. So definitely want to give it a chance here. I'm going to just start tearing. I'm not even trying to peel that tape off. I'm just going to start tearing that paper and let it come off that way. And it's a little harder to see because these blocks are transparent. So I'm going to put something behind it so it's a little easier for you guys to see. Though I'm not doing a very good job of that.
And not burn herself at the same time.
And not burn myself. But you can see it sublimated really nicely.
Yeah. Very vivid, clear photo.
Still very, very hot. So when you are letting something cool, do be cautious where you put it at. So I've stained more than my fair share of tables by putting a sublimation blank, particularly metal, just down on a bare piece of wood. So you do want to make sure that transfers actually upwards. Or you could put it on something like a piece of the nonstick, like these pressing pillows, things like that. And just let that sit for a few minutes while it cools down. Also, if you have kids around or you have people who are coming in to see you work, just make them aware that something could be hot.
Yes.
We've had a few people pick up coffee mugs that came right out of a press. You don't want somebody just barehanding touching something that's about 300 degrees.
Yeah, and there are some tricks with some sublimation blanks to get them to cool off faster.
You could put them in front of a fan.
Yep.
Or if you're doing mugs, there are some people who like to use like room temperature water. Do make sure if you're using water, it cannot be cold in any way, shape, or form. And I do not recommend it with glass. I would only recommend that with ceramic.
Yep. So if you need to cool something down fast, there are some options, but overall,
A fan's a really great way to do it. It also helps ventilate your workspace.
Yeah. So I think one of the last troubleshooting tips we wanted to go through was on time. So if you are printing something that has a lot of black in the design and your black is coming out green instead of a true black, what are some things that you can try to adjust that so that your color is coming out the way that you wanted it to?
So typically green blacks or green coloration to a print means that you don't have enough time. So I would start by adding 15 seconds. So by adding 15 seconds, you're giving it a little bit more time. And then if your design is turning brown or looking very overcooked or very kind of sepia toned, you have too much time and possibly too much heat. So you would just go ahead and bring that back. 15-second increments tend to work very, very well. And also check and make sure what range of temperature you're working in. If your prints are consistently green, you might need to go just a little bit hotter, but you don't necessarily want to jump a huge amount with temperature. There's a sweet spot. Anything between about 385 to 400 is typically a sweet spot. But some blanks, they want you down at like 365. So it's going to depend a lot on your surface.
Yeah. Any other coloring tips and tricks when there's like ghosting or...
Ghosting means something moved. So either your blank moved. So like, for example, if it's fabric, maybe your blank moved when you opened the press and the paper wasn't stuck well enough. So some cases, tape might not work for you. You might want to use either a very mild tacking spray, or there is actually what's called tacky paper. And that's used a lot of times with like sportswear, something that's a slicker surface. The other thing you could do is make your pre-press. Pre-pressing will help immensely with ghosting because sometimes it is because your blank has compressed a little bit. So for example, can koozies. A lot of people get ghosting with can koozies. It's because that koozie kind of contracts a little bit and shrinks just a little bit, and then your design gets kind of a shadow to it. So pre-press that, and that will help immensely.
Yeah. So Jackie, do we have any other questions we should cover?
There was a question in the chat about if you can sublimate on any type of glass.
So the question was, can you sublimate on any type of glass?
No, it would need to be glass that has a poly coating on it. So this has a polyester coating that is applied. I'm going to open a brand new one so I can show it to you. And same with our drinkware, that also has a polyester coating that's been applied to it. So the sublimation ink bonds to the polyester. So I'm going to bring this around.
I always kind of describe sublimation as by applying the heat to it, it opens the pores within the material or the blank that you're working on for the ink to actually seep inside. So it's the lasting print on whatever blank you're using. It won't scratch off. Sorry. Yeah, she just tried to grab the hot one.
So you can see this is the one we did yesterday, and that coating on the back that is white, that is the polyester.
Now there are products that you can buy to add sublimation coating to things that aren't sublimation ready. I do believe we carry some of that here.
Yeah.
I think it's called Sublimating.
Yes.
So if there is a blank that you find somewhere that you absolutely need to put something personalized on it, and sublimation is the technology that you have, we do offer a product called Sublimating that you could attempt to put onto
Yeah.
the product. There's some trial and error with it.
It's all about getting your coating the right thickness. Too thick and it gets very sticky, and too thin and it doesn't transfer well.
So there is options.
There are.
But the easiest way is to always use something that is sublimation ready,
Yep.
and then there's less waste in materials.
There is another question or comment in the chat about photo slate, struggling with photo slate. Do you have any advice or tips and tricks for working with photo slate, pressing photo slate?
So the question is, do we have tips and tricks on sublimating photo slate?
Yes, we also offer in the tech tips, but photo slate, because the edges have been kind of chipped back and the polyester coating goes to a certain point, you really want to make sure you have a very large bleed, so that way then you have plenty of extra artwork to work with. The other thing is I really normally always use a Nomex pad. So when I'm working with photo slates, I use a Nomex. Now, Nomex is great, but if you're doing it again and again and again, you'll notice you get these kind of almost lines. So you might need to either rotate or flip your Nomex to help avoid compression like that. And then with the photo slate, I put my slate down so that the transfer is on the bottom here, right above the Nomex, and it's pushing up. And you're going to go for almost 11 minutes. It's a really long, but it's going to vary on the size of your photo slate. But most slate, it takes a very, very long time to press.
And by putting it upside down, that helps with getting it on all of those edges.
All those edges, it's like
is
pushing it into
pillow.
it.
Yeah.
And you're letting the heat kind of transfer through the slate into that transfer, which is also why it takes a really long time to press. But definitely lots of time. And if you're having consistent issues with it and it's a photo slate that you want some help with, reach out to the advanced support team. We're happy to help.
Can you review the Nomex pad again? I think that may have been something when we were having audio issues.
Okay.
Just a little refresher.
Sure. The Nomex pad, this is available through our website. It's felt. It's about 1/4 inch thick. It doesn't really compress as much as like foam does. So the foam, you can get a lot of shrinkage and it kind of pushes down. The Nomex is just very soft, but very firm. So it helps prevent breakage. So if you're using this with something ceramic or porcelain, it helps prevent the cracking and breaking that you can have by if you were just going to press it with just the regular pad that's on your heat press. And then something like photo slates or like the photo coasters, things like that, it helps you get a better transfer by letting you really push that slate down into this. And then you're going to get that edges where you're going to get your transfer of your artwork.
Any other questions? No? I see heads shaking. Joyce, anything else you want to cover? Tips and tricks? Sublimation?
If you need to clean your heat press, definitely make sure it's cold. If you get ink on it, so there's a couple ways you can clean it. You can use something like isopropyl alcohol. You can use scrap pieces of your blowout paper and use that when you're heating it back up after you've wiped it off with your isopropyl alcohol. Heat it back up, close it, press it for a few minutes. It will help pull any ink that is on your press onto the blowout paper. Your heat press is definitely an investment, so you definitely want to take care of it and make sure it is working well.
What about drinkware? Obviously, we've got this really nice 40-ounce tumbler sitting over here. This is not going to fit in that press.
It is not going to fit in that press. There are specific presses for things like mugs, drinkware, hats. You can also use a convection oven.
Yep.
And those are also all available on our website. And they have some similarities even with a flat press. You're still going to set your time and your temperature. Pressure is going to be a little bit different depending on the type of press you're using. So if you're using a mug press, you would actually not use a mug press with an item like this because that mug press would have a really hard time. You would only be able to sublimate this top section. This has some tabs here and a handle. So you wouldn't be able to get all the way in here. And you wouldn't be able to maybe press the bottom without it tipping. So this is something I would do in a convection oven with shrink wraps. Now, a smaller mug, like a coffee cup, I would do that in a mug press. And I would make sure that my pressure, you don't want to break something. So you want your pressure to be really firm. And again, so that way then you're getting really consistent heat all the way around. but you don't want to deform it. So
Right.
setting the pressure on that, I like to do it when the press is cold. Put my blank in, set my pressure. Most of the time, those have some screws that you tighten up to set your pressure on that. And then you can go ahead and heat presses for drinkware take much longer because that drinkware takes longer to heat up.
Yeah.
So you want to give your mug press plenty of time to get hot when you're doing your drinkware.
It's important that you have a designated convection oven.
Yes.
You can buy a convection oven from a big box store. However, you cannot use that convection oven then to cook food. Because,
absolutely not.
Yeah, of the it's off gassing, correct? The fumes and stuff that comes from the ink and out of the blanks. And then that has become your designated convection oven for sublimating drinkware.
You can't make pizza in it afterwards.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yes, you're going to use that. I know there are people who use small toaster ovens. They use air fryers. They use convection ovens. Whatever works and gets good airflow and holds a consistent temperature. So, yeah, that's all I can think of.
Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up. We do have a really awesome giveaway with this event. So it has a lot of the items that we've shown off here today, and you can enter to win this either with your ThriveCart access, or there's also a link on our Facebook group page. But yes, we've got an awesome package for you guys that includes a pressing pillow, includes some blowout papers, some of the pads that we talked about here, to get you started in sublimation and apply some of these tips and tricks that we talked about here today. So we are super excited to start day 2. That's a wrap of day 1. And again, I'm Caitlin and this is Joyce. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.